All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back on the Ultimate Sports Network. This is Real Boxing Talk. We are talking about real boxing. It sounds like this is scripted. It's not. I just made it up, didn't screw it up this time. Welcome, everybody. We've been talking off the air about a few things that we find interesting about what's going on in the boxing world. And normally we just jump into fights. Fights that just happen, fights are going to happen, speculation of what's going on. But a couple of things were brought to my attention within the last few minutes that I think are very interesting. One, we've got what looks like it's going to be a great fight, the Katie Taylor bringing the women's fighting game back to or out to where we want it to be. Unfortunately, it's going to be on the same night as Shakur Stevenson fight. And did someone say that Bob Arum made a comment about that? John, what happened?
Well, he commented like he's prone to in his blunt, curmudgeon way, and basically said that it doesn't matter, I don't care. ESPN picked the date, and this is a very bad paraphrase of his quote, so I don't want to mangle it. But basically, he just said, yeah, ESPN picked the date. I didn't have a problem with it because most people don't like women's boxing anyway, so I don't see a problem. So that was basically the gist of what he was saying. He just criticized the biggest women's fight that's come down in years and years and years. And anybody that has seen either of those ladies fight knows they can fight. I really like Katie. She's one of my favorites. Serrano, I've seen her 2 or 3 times, extremely talented. So to just throw them to the curb like that they're like, big deal. Not a good look. Not a good look. He could have been a little bit more diplomatic, but as we know, that's not Bob Arum's way.
Well, and Charles, we try and steer clear of the old man get off my lawn speeches, but this is one of those things where we're trying to progress and improve and bring other people to the table, and it seems as if the people that have the table don't want or don't care whether anyone's at the table or not. So what do we do with, or can we do anything with the Bob Arum-ish outlook on sport?
Well, I mean, you have to see it for what it is. I mean, it's an old school attitude, people that are in power still thinking a certain way. But then instead of really going after him the way you do it, then the point of it is to share with the people that really care, the fans in particular, you share with them there's a room for everybody at the table, right? So while more likely these fights are not going to be at the same time, you know, it's probably going to be, they're going to be on the same day, close to it. But if you're a smart individual that has a little savvy, technical savvy, then you why not get 2 for 1? You got Katie Taylor, as you mentioned, versus Amanda Serrano, April 30th, one of the greatest women's fights we've seen in quite some time, worthwhile watching. Then on the flip side, Mr. Arum has said he has this showstopper, which a lot of people are going to be watching, Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez on April 30th. So if it was me and I wanted to see it, both of them, I would watch them. You know how it is. You get slick with it. And I'm not going to promote nobody, but them certain sticks people have and everything they have, you can put one thing on one TV, one on another. So let's get crafty about it. Let's have a party. If you got more than one screen at your availability, why not watch both of them? Open it up. That way you can catch both of them, jump onto it. See, I told you I should hire me. Anyway, you watch both of them at the same time and you got snacks, whatever. If it costs you a little money to pay through what you're going to pay through, pay for it. Gather some folks. You're a real boxing fan. Get some pizza, some brews. And April 30th, let's have a party, baby, instead of fighting one another. Love, brother, not war.
This is the thing that we're fighting for, but unfortunately, we're also fighting against the way they do it. You've got the Shakur Stevenson, Oscar Valdez fight on ESPN, ESPN Plus, pay-per-view, all that fun crap. Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano will be on DAZN. Now, we've had comments on either one or on both of them, and positive and negative. But here's the way I think, and of course my opinion means so much, here's the way I think that it should work. Cross-promote them. Do something on each channel. Hey, ESPN, let's run a commercial for DAZN. DAZN, let's run a commercial for ESPN. Folks, let's do it so one of them starts at 1, one of them starts at 5, or whatever time zone you're in, or however you want to do it. So, A, we're not running against each other. B, as Charles said, a fight fan's going to buy both of them. So make it accessible for both of them. Get the chips, get the beer, make it so it can be done. Instead of it being us against them, let's shut you out. Let's figure out a way to get it to where it's accessible to everybody. Because we have the NFL, we've got a CBS game, we've got a Fox game. Then we've got a Monday night or Sunday night football game, which is on NBC. Then we got a game on Monday night, which is on ESPN. Then the Thursday night game is on NFL Network or whatever. They're all working together because they're working with one organization. And this is where we see that the organizations are fighting against each other and the companies that are promoting them are fighting against each other. So, Charles, we mentioned something else, kind of segue into that. We have one company that's trying to make a difference that started promoting a little bit of weird stuff. But what's happening with Triller right now?
Yeah, Triller, you have a gentleman by name, I think his name is David, I'm probably going to butcher the name, but David Terrell. And he was the CBO equity partner for Golden Boy, right? Took that position, I think, last July. And now he is leaving Golden Boy, is now sitting in the position of the president of Triller Fight Club, the Triller Fight Club. So pretty much in charge of the boxing promotions and operations for Triller, who's been trying to move up. Previously, before all of this, he had experience with Sony, Fox, and Warner Brothers. So he's accomplished, he's experienced, and by Triller making that move, it kind of shows you that they're really serious about upgrading their boxing exposure and what they're presenting to the people, because they spend a lot of money, as we know, and to grab a guy like that is major because he understands the sport and how things are running at this point, particularly if he was previously with Golden Boy.
Well, John, we were talking off the air that the game is changing, or it's changed. And we've been around this long enough to understand that it is a game and to understand where it has been and what it's coming to and from. You know, the days of Don King and Jose Suleiman and whomever else being the ones doing things, it's changing. Now, we still have Bob Arum hanging around. We still have Golden Boy. We still have that. We still have a few other people. But it does look like it's a little different. We were talking about we have to adapt on our end as well for what we do. So if we were to say, let's try and make this more accessible to the people, this is where the Jake Pauls and all that stuff are coming out of the woodwork, and we're saying, well, it may not be what we want it to be, but it's something. Looking at some of the fights that we're getting, or fights that have been announced that we're trying to get, where do we go to find the action? Do we go to pay-per-view? Do we go to internet streaming? What's the next best way of doing this in an old school person's point of view?
Well, I can go on the fight coming this weekend, and I know we're going to talk about Keith Thurman. People are moaning and groaning about it being a pay-per-view fight. It's $75, and I have to agree. I don't think that is a pay-per-view fight. I don't know why Premier Boxing, because it's Keith Thurman, okay, but Mario Barros is an ex-champion, of course, but more of a paper champion in the sense, sorry, Mario, the title he won wasn't considered as serious as the titles that Thurman won, and most people are considering it more of a tune-up, even though an upset obviously is possible, as we know with anything in boxing. I liked the idea a few years ago where they were trying to figure out a way to go back on free TV to try to build up the audience, like you know how they do, where they say, join us now for free, and then you could go to cable or something, but make it where you're talking about old and the way they used to promote it. They used to have boxing every Saturdays and sometimes Sundays in my day, and they were talking about that doing it, and then they did it for a while, but it wasn't really free, it was on cable. So they'd have to, right? So it's not free to everybody. Not everybody has cable. You can't assume everybody has cable. They'd have to go, in my day, they used to have the CBS Sports Spectacular. I'm sure you guys remember that, right? With Tim Ryan and Gil Clancy announcing the fights. And I can't help but go back to that only because it was so popular. But the flip side is that was then.
Right.
Nowadays, you've got so much more competition. So much more viewing competition. That was all we had in those days. So we're talking about Oscar Valdez and Shakur and Amanda and Katie on the same day. I wish they were both on the same card. I think that would have been fantastic. I mean, the Valdez Shakur Stevenson fight to me is big enough that it could have been at Madison Square Garden itself. Is it as big as in the big picture as Katie and Amanda surround? No, but it would have been the top fight just because it's the men fighting. But can you imagine if they did that and then they put that on free television? I mean, it's worth a try. I'm not saying it's going to work anymore because the world has changed so much. People wouldn't be probably, even though it's on Channel 5, CBS, like where? You know? I mean, everything's so different now. But I mean, if I was one of these guys and I had $1 gazillion, you know, I would think the only way I'm going to grow my company is by doing something bold, and that would be bold. Like they do. Look at the Super Bowl. I mean, the Super Bowl's on regular television. Look at the ratings. So you could, I hate saying this, but it works. You could steal some things from Triller in the sense that, you know, they turn it into a rock concert boxing session. You could include some of that to get the younger people involved, and then have some of the younger announcers. Snoop Dogg and all that stuff. Snoop Dogg's very entertaining, to be honest. I mean, he's funny as hell. So you include that, and so you hope for the crossover because I'm almost done here. Boxing is definitely in this little niche, as we know. We've been talking about this for years since we've been doing it. We got this little loyal crowd audience that watches boxing. I have a friend that just reviewed Intimate Warfare, and he said our favorite line: "Boxing is dying." People can like MMA if they want, I don't care. But his point was, when he was a kid, he watched Hagler and Hearns and Leonard, and we just don't have that anymore. And you could see them. You didn't have to pay. You could see them. And then you might have to pay. So I would think there has to be a way for a guy like Richard Schaefer working with Charles to come up with a plan. You knew that was coming. Yeah. To think way outside the box to try to build this, and then of course you have a star client who would drive that Corvette right through it. So it's a doable thing if they'd be willing to do it. But these guys are all way too selfish, and like you're saying, Frank, cross publicizing. There ain't a chance in hell they're going to do that. They're gonna act like there's no fight even happening on DAZN. No big fight. They won't even mention Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. Like, hey, is there a big fight tonight? What fight?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, what are you talking about, man? So, and then same thing with Oscar Valdez, with Amanda and Katie. They won't either or. They won't say anything. Eddie Hearn won't say anything. Are you kidding? So it's almost the way I'm done here. It's almost like the way society is so divided. You're the enemy if you're on the other side. There's no middle. It's like, I hate you, and that's it.
Well, you know, here's the thing, now, and I agree with you completely, but what we were talking about off the air plays into this perfectly, that there is another way, and there is another way that is being done successfully, and we have to figure out how to tap into that. We as Ultimate Sports Network, we as in boxing in general, because let's face it, if you were to ask someone under the age of, let's say 35, to choose MMA, boxing, they're going to choose MMA. And I don't think it's even a contest. Now, I know that it can be exciting. All right, why is it something that they want? Because it's being geared towards them. It's being promoted towards them. It's being delivered in a package in which they understand. So we have to understand that package. Like I said, the days of Jose Suleiman running this side and Don King doing his part, those days are over. You know, we need to have stuff on Twitch. We need to have stuff that's live streamed. We need to find those things and still combine it with HBO. We combine it with Showtime, combine it with CBS, and figure out a way. March Madness. You know why we still have March Madness? Because they don't just have it on one TV station and one way to package. It's able to be found in several different places. The Super Bowl is still the Super Bowl. But if you're not a football fan, you're watching the commercials. And guess what? They're getting paid for commercials. So we got to figure out a way to get it out there. So I'm going to throw 3 or 4 names at you, Charles, of fights that are coming up. And we're going to say, how do we find those fights? How do we know about them? All right. So I was just looking up. Josh Warrington is coming back. Josh Taylor is fighting. And Oscar Valdez is fighting. Shakur Stevenson. Those 3 guys, those should be interesting articles, interesting fights, interesting concepts. How do we get people to find out about them? Do we go through these channels? Do we find Twiller, whatever the hell it is? Is it something that it should be on? I don't know how you promote something on Twitter because it's only 103 characters, whatever the hell it is. But here's how we have to look at things now. We have fights that we want to see. How do we get people to see them?
Well,
And this show, for example, so they can find that out as well. And they can interact with us too.
You have to hear people where they live, man. And we have brand new, I'm gonna say brand new now because they've been out there for a while. The social media thing is running rampant, right? So it depends on how you are. If you're older, more likely you're on Facebook. You know, TikTok, people doing all kind of stuff. I'm not sure if TikTok is the proper place for that because that's more about videos, people acting crazy and whatever. That's a little different. But I'm thinking about Twitter, definitely Instagram. All right, you got to play the Instagram game. And you just gotta let them know. You gotta put it out there. Then YouTube. YouTube is huge out there now. People are watching all kind of videos. A lot of people don't even watch TV. Oftentimes they'll just go straight to YouTube and watch videos there because that's how one is considered. If they have a internet connection, they can find it that way. And I think that's key. But I think part of it, as you mentioned. So, ladies and gentlemen, Frank told you a lot of different stuff. I'm about to give you the 411 real quick. You want to watch something? This is how you get it done. I'm trying to tell you, you can thank me later, but this is how it goes right here. Real talk. People not going to like what I'm about to say because they're trying to make money. First of all, when Frank mentioned earlier about, the groups coming together and trying to cross promote, as John said, that mess is not going to happen. Everybody wants their dollar. It's like the old West back in the day. Meet me at sundown and then the winner lives and takes over the town, other guy dies. That's what it is. They're still on that a lot of times. It was also mentioned previously about how the NFL is working together with those groups, media groups collectively. Back in the day, they didn't do that. They did the same thing we're talking about right now. They collectively came together where everybody's getting the same amount of the revenue stream now because there's only so many games you can happen. Do you ever wonder yourself, depending on what market you are in, that there's always a reason why, a rule of thumb, why every Sunday, particularly in the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock games, CBS or Fox, only one of them is allowed to do 2 games, the 1 and the 4 together. Well, the other one does 1 game.
I have yet to figure out the explanation of why that happens. I'm curious.
I'll get into that later, but there's a reason why, because there was an agreement made as to they didn't want to confuse people, whatever, and the way they have it set up. So they alternate each week. You see 1 week, or CBS has 2 games, and then the next week Fox has 1 and vice versa. Now with your Thursday and your Mondays, they have exclusive contracts, but it's all working together. But they have an agreement now where everybody kind of they cross promote, as you mentioned. But in boxing, you have a lot of people that are more, they want the money. So I want all the money. The hell with you. I'm not cross promoting anything. That's why the Bob Arum was staying around for so long. But anyway, here's the solution. Solution is this for those that are watching. I can only help so much with the promotion, but those that want to see the fights.
Right.
First of all, if you love cable, cool with you, rock with your cable. But there have been so many people that have cut their cable. A lot of people don't have cable. I don't have cable. I'm not paying $200 a month to watch channels I don't want to see. And then when I go in there and I still can't find anything, so I cut my cable. It's been a minute. I know FCC coming for me. I love y'all though. Anyway, it don't matter. I'm out here. But I cut my cable. So when you cut your cable, you got to find alternative resources to watch boxing, whatever you want to. Then you go out, go to your local Kmart, Walmart, wherever you do, Costco's, whatever. Go out and purchase you a antenna, remote indoor antenna that can get you anywhere from 20 to 60 channels for free, depending on what you watch and what you want to see. Most of them are local channels. The minimum is like 20 to 60 channels, and that's just free TV, right? Then, here we go. I told you, pay attention. Go out. I know I'm telling you how to do it. You have to figure it out yourself. Buy you a damn Fire Stick. Buy a Fire Stick. They also have the program Fire Sticks where they have different shows now where they are able to set up, they're already streamed for you. The channels are locked in, cost you a little bit more money. Everything lights up. Streaming is the new way, man. It's been the way for a while. You can stream almost anything. Somebody's streaming something, whatever. And then when it's done legitimately, now remember, I said legitimately, then it opens the door for you to go to catching the ESPNs and catching ESPN Pluses. Streaming means streaming all of this stuff down where you can watch all these different things. So that's how you do it. You go to even older people, you're doing it the conventional way. You got some little knucklehead grandson or nephew
Figure out a way.
or your son or daughter that can help you come up to grades on technology and move forward. That's how you do it. And it saves you a lot of money. But the trick is now, if you notice, why is it a certain group is struggling so much to bring you back, giving you 75% off your cable package because it's not working for them anymore. Streaming is a way of life. So if it was me, as I round up this soliloquy, those are the things that you have to do. Cross promotion, they're going to still try to keep going out, keep moving forward. That's not going to happen. But that's why you see the Trillers of the world trying to figure it out right. There's a lot of folks out there trying to get it right. If you get it right, you spend a bunch of money, then you're at the top. The rest of them will fall. But to the average consumer and customer and fan, this is the way you go about it, because they're spending all this money trying to get you to watch and things of that nature, and they still, a lot of them have not figured it out. Last but not least on this point, think about this. Ask yourself your question, boxing fans. Do you think it's a coincidence that those in charge that were handling the Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder fight number 3 didn't do any real marketing at all? They just let it sell itself because they knew they didn't have to, because it was a damn good fight. Y'all tuned in. It's one of the best, maybe the best fight of the year. They're watching this and they understand that. So instead of spending all this money and stuff like that, get smarter and understand what's available to you, not hurting anybody or trying to take money out of anybody's pocket, because they're going to make their money anyway. Well, be smart about the purchase that you make, and also be smart about who you watch. Because I guarantee you, all the boxing shows you watch, tell me the percentage of people going to tell you what I just told you. And I didn't even charge you a damn dime. I just asked you to tune in. Like, follow, subscribe.
The interesting thing about that, and not to plug Ultimate Sports Network, which I'm going to do anyway, it's that we got out of the idea of paying per click and per view and for all that crap, because it's pointless to even try and look at things that way, at least from our perspective. You subscribe to Ultimate Sports Network, you get everything. It's that simple. And instead of trying to do it piecemeal, a little bit here, a little bit there, you do that. Oh, by the way, here's an ad that I don't care about watching. I want to watch this content. No, but the ad comes up in 3 seconds, then 2, 1, click, and I don't pay attention to the ad. Now, someone has to explain to me under the age of 35 how that works, because I don't get it. If you don't watch the ad, how does the ad actually work? I don't understand that at all. So here's what we provide this way. This is what I think is what works for boxing. For example, Charles has mentioned a perfect example. That fight, no one told anyone about, and since it was a good fight, it's what people wanted to see, they came out of the woodwork to see it. This is what boxing has always been. You might have self-promoters here, and some of them were very good, and some of the promoters were very good. But if you didn't have a fight worth watching, it really didn't matter. If you had a fight worth watching, it got out there. So looking at boxing purely now, is the Thurman Barrios fight worth promoting in a manner in which we're used to promoting right now, John?
Well, it is only because it's a boxing match and it's the main event, but not if they're not promoting it much, and I don't blame them. It is a pay-per-view. I think they already figure they're going to lose money based on everything that I'm seeing on social media, and I don't really know again why they decided to put that on. Keith Thurman wrote a letter to the boxing fans and talked about why it's on pay-per-view. Keith was one of the guys a few years ago who wanted to do the free thing. And he almost wrote this letter and seemed embarrassed by this. Yeah, that's a great. I got to go back to Fury Wilder really fast. People were saying that fight was going to be a bomb as far as financially, and nobody was going to go. And then they had like 17,000 people there.
Right.
So in a sense, it sold itself. And it almost sounds like talking like this outside the box, that it has to be the fight, not the fighters or just boxing. Wilder and Fury, people knew those names. Their third fight, they knew them, right? See, I'm just looking at this, equating this with what's coming in another way coming up. There are going to be a number of people that are going to go, Oscar who? Oscar De La Hoya? He's fighting again? Shakur? Who's a Shakur?
Arthur Meyer, right.
So it's going to be kind of a peripheral kind of fight, and that one I think, will need more selling, because that's going to be an excellent fight between two extremely good fighters. But I'm afraid that a lot of people are going to go, eh. So that's the conundrum that you're in right now as far as boxing goes, is one sells itself because they fought two times and they're big heavyweights. Heavyweights almost always sell.
Right.
You little guys who are extremely talented, real fast, right? Josh Warrington, Josh Taylor, they're in Europe. Total different world there than America. Those boxing fans, they go and they support boxing. They're not like America. America's like, I don't care about that. They have this Saturday, Chris Eubank, that fight with Clarence Shields, that's going to have probably 30 or 30,000. Have that many in that arena. It's Europe. We can't compete with Europe. They're a totally different animal as far as that goes. So that's what I mean. It's America versus this, and then the fight and the fighters. So how much money do you want to put into it when you don't think there's going to be any interest? It's like that fight we're talking about real fast, the Stephen Fulton fight with Figueroa. You mentioned it. Not a soul was walking around in Vegas.
I didn't even know it was happening. It was happening a block away.
Exactly, and it looked like the only people in the crowd was their families. So, I mean, it was very small, and it was a great fight. So it is a tough time right now, and quickly, and that was a great point with streaming. Streaming is it. Streaming is the future. That's why, even though I said about what the old way of doing it, I think that might be a good way to bring the interest, but some of the interest up. But streaming, everybody pretty much streams, and it is the way to go. Hell, I stream stuff all the time myself. So it's easy. It's right there. You got control. Things are changing, and boxing has to change with it.
Well, here's the thing that I'm completely conflicted about. Team sports, they promote. It's Trae Young versus Steph Curry. It's Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes, even though we know that that's not the case. Yet, we look at UFC 287. Who's fighting? Who cares? They promote UFC, whatever it is, like we're supposed to know now that we're at 395, whatever it is, we're supposed to know what the other 247 of them were. They don't care. They just promote it's a UFC fight on Saturday. Here it is, come find it. Now, they're starting to get names in there. I get that. There are names now. But really, they don't outshine the UFC. So is it that an individual sport should be marketed as an entity and a team sport should be marketed as an individual sport? I don't know. It's the PGA Tour, but Tiger's playing. Woo! They're not getting Justin Leonard out there and saying, I'm making a comeback. They don't care about that. Well, Phil's playing. Yeah, this is the name popped in my head. So it is, it's not, we're playing at Pebble Beach and Jason Day's going to be there. It's Pebble Beach. This is the event. This is the Masters. This is the U.S. Open. What is it that we have to do? Because I'm missing something, Charles. I don't know. Is it a Richard Schaefer deal that says I'm going to have to start an organization that runs boxing so people come to boxing, not because of who it is or the weight class, but because we're putting on an event on Tuesday. Y'all better be there because you don't want to miss this.
Let me just say this. I don't know if you're going to bring boxing back like that. There was a time when we were along, we knew Ali was fighting whoever's fighting boxing, you can just put out there boxing fans are like that. I think that there are too many different choices and different sports and different things people can watch. People are on reality TV and stuff like that. So I'm not sure if you're going to say boxing. And you say why, you know, it should be the teams instead of the individuals, or one vice versa, or UFC and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, what you got to do is you got to find out what your product, what's out of your product, what sells, right? So the reason why everybody knows boxing, not boxing, but golf to this point has not found a successor to Tiger Woods. They have not. They put everybody and their mother up there. They cannot hold the crown. They sit at number one for about a week or two, then they fall off. They have a horrible thing. I can't believe he's not, okay, you're not Tiger. So they know, despite he's been 99, been through 9 back surgeries and all kind of accidents and stuff, Tiger Woods is still the face of golf. Boxing, on the other hand, is people just are not into boxing like they used to. You had the diehards or whatever. Does that mean it's dead? No, it's not dead. So what you have to do, you have to understand in your situation what sells. So what people need to be educated. So you have the Tyson Fury, and we mentioned you know, Wilder fight. Everybody knew them. Heavyweights, everybody came out. You had to say nothing, right? But you mentioned Oscar Valdez versus Shakur Stevenson. I don't know if I'm gonna watch that. So now I gotta promote that and I gotta let you see it. It's the same way, like I told you years ago when I found out who the hell Manny Pacquiao was. I gotta put him out there and I gotta put him on. The one thing too is, that's not just boxing. I gotta promote Oscar Valdez versus Shakur Stevenson. I gotta put that out there. I gotta say, watch this. I guarantee you, you will not, it will be worth your time. Same way with you mentioned about Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano. While boxing is great, those are the names that people need to see. They're going to bring the quality that people are looking for. People want to be entertained. If you're going to have me watch something that I'm not really familiar with it, then these people, when I watch them, need to put on a damn show. They need to live up to the billing. And that's why you have to interchange with whether or not you do the teams or whether or not you do special individuals. And I think that's what they have to do. So granted, like you said, it may not make a lot of sense, but you have to go after the individuals and put them out there. Like you just said, Shakur Stevenson is a once in a lifetime talent. As long as he doesn't get hurt and stays healthy, I guarantee you that's who he's going to be. This is one of the top women's boxing matches coming up, April 30th, even though it's on the same night as the bout as well. That's why we said to you again, from our standpoint, and Frank said he's not into the clicks and stuff too, I'm into that. So you click, subscribe, whatever hell you're going to do. There's a certain point that he's just an old man. He don't want to jump into the whole thing. We're going to transform him. Don't y'all worry. So you click, you subscribe, you do everything because we think that we put a decent enough product out there for you guys to be entertained by, and we're going to give it to you. So we're going to let the question be over my old man to my left or the right, depending on how you're looking at the screen. We're going to let him keep doing this thing. But damn it, I know y'all like to subscribe, watch, and whatever, and we're bringing you solid content. So again, to repeat that for y'all, you need to learn how to stream. You also need to get you a antenna for your television. These opens the door. These things open the door for you to watch almost any freaking thing that you want to at a limited cost. The big promotion folks like the Trillers, the Zones, the ESPNs, and everybody, Showtime, everybody, they're in it to get your dollar, and I'm not mad at that. That's promotion, that's marketing. Nothing but love for them. Hey, you got to make your paper. Get your money. I'm not mad at that. But on the standpoint, from a customer standpoint, I'm trying to put this back at you, that you have to be understanding of the factor of what works best for you and your dollar. Unless you're rich, then it doesn't matter. But for those just trying to get out there and get the paper and understanding, just know that boxing is still going to be around. It may not be in the same format that you saw it as, because the talent and the quality of the fights don't lie. Because if that wasn't the case, boxing would have died a long time ago.
I just want to say, back in my day, when you got your information when the milkman came, that's when boxing was boxing. That's what I'm talking about.
Frank,
but the point of what I'm trying to say is, when I say I don't like clicks, I mean, we post this show, and it's usually an hour-long show. And sometimes you'll get that, especially with the audio side of it. You get, great show, dude. It's like, I just posted it 4 minutes ago. You couldn't have possibly have watched it. A click to me is if you click on and you stay engaged, I have no problem with a click. It's the click and we start adding clicks because there's no engagement. And that's the problem I have. But that's my own cross to bear, and I'll deal with that. So we'll go from there. All right. Now, let's look at something from a serious perspective here. There are 17 weight classes in boxing and 4 belts per weight class, 5 depending upon what you want to call it, whatever. Let's just use that number. 68 title fights can be held in the course of a year. What UFC does is they have a big promotion every couple of weeks. And since it's under the umbrella of UFC, it's almost always something that's not always pay-per-view, but it's always something they can say, we have the welterweight, blah, 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 blah. We have this, blah, 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 because they're promoting it that way. With boxing, we should be able to do the same thing. But granted, it's got to be organized by more than just one party, one belt, one title. But if you could do that, you could be able to put out a quality product every 1 or 2 weeks and 2 or 3 decent fights on each card. Yes, I know I'm speaking to the choir here, but I understand that. But John, is that something that the powers that be are going to have to understand, that they're not promoting their product because they're not utilizing their product properly?
Let me go back a bit, because I was waiting, chomping at the bit. I wanted to say something about the boxing and UFC. See, and you say they just sell the UFC event, right? They don't even mention who, unless Ronda Rousey was fighting a few years ago and she went through the roof, and then it was Ronda Rousey and whoever else, right? It's more how boxing was. If you think about it, boxing has always been about names. Names that just roll off our tongue. You know, Jack Dempsey, Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, Sugar Ray Robinson. It's an individual sport. It's one guy against another guy. So they can't sell the event because the people know the guy. Like they mentioned Tom Brady against Patrick Mahomes because they figured probably that peripherally people will know who Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes are. They won't know who the linebacker is. They won't know who Tyreek Hill is. They won't know any of those guys who are incredible, but they will know Patrick Mahomes. So I think that's a marketing thinking that you go, okay, we got to mention the name over and over again because that's who they care about. And that's what I think happened with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Is that I almost said Gene Wilder? there's an age issue right there. It would have been not a good fight against Gene Wilder since he's passed away a few years ago. Sorry, Gene. So it's a weird kind of a thing But then it seems like the UFC, going back to your question, Frank, finally, it seems like they're more on the same page to me. They seem to have a goal of what they're trying to do, where boxing is handled so much by greedy, money is so many people's god. I mean, I get that. I get it. I'm not being judgmental, especially in boxing. So it's like, well, let's work together on this. Are you kidding me? So they don't have one umbrella for they have like 4 or 5 umbrellas, and they're like, F you, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. So of course, what does it end up doing? It hurts the sport. So to get that to happen, and I think Charles made the best point a little while ago when he said he didn't believe that it would ever go back to the way it was. I agree with that. Unless there's somebody out there that they can build around. Like a Tyson, like a Muhammad Ali, like a George Foreman, then you can make your whole. They've tried it with Canelo, and he's done well, and people know him. Hell, you don't even have to say his name. That tells you how big you are. When they just say you're like Elvis, they say Canelo. They don't say Saul Canelo Alvarez. You say Canelo. So that's about as big as somebody could be, I think, in boxing, the way it is nowadays. So to do what you're talking about, Frank, you'd have to get all these promoters together and go, okay, the goal is we want 2 cards per month that are at least standouts that people really want to see. So we're not going to have Oscar Valdez and Amanda Serrano fighting on the same night. 1 week we've got Oscar Valdez and Shakur Stevenson, and then the next weekend we've got Amanda Serrano and Katie Taylor. And on the Shakur Stevenson Valdez fight, we're going to promote the upcoming.
Right, exactly.
That's what you're going to do. You springboard or you piggyback, whatever way you want to do it.
Whether it's on your network or not, you're promoting the sport of boxing.
Boxing, that's the bigger picture. I get that, but you're not going to get it with these guys because they're so much all about themselves. I actually believe, and maybe we talk about glowingly too much about this guy, but I actually think Richard Schaefer would consider doing something like that because he seems to be an international guy. Charles is best friend down there. I don't know why he hasn't called him, but I do, because Richard is a businessman. And unlike these guys who are driven more by emotion. Now, Aaron's a lawyer and all that. I get that, but that probably says enough. Ambulance chaser. Okay, so Richard Schaefer might have, I know. Richard Schaefer might have an idea. I know, Muhammad Ali talking about, hey, that was my guy back then. Okay, sorry. you can cut that part out, Frank, later when you edit. I just think that there has to be someone. It's too bad they can't have a meeting like the mob did when there was all kinds of problems, right? And they'd all meet at a table and go, okay, look, there's been enough bloodshed. For the good of the mob, we have to fix this so we can continue to live the way we want instead of just tearing each other up all the time. I mean, these guys, Eddie Hearn and Bobby Ehrman, they just rip each other to shreds. You guys think I'm not even being, I'm just teasing a little bit. These guys are vicious. Oh, that moron, who cares about him? Frank Warren and all this kind of stuff. You'd have to have the Godfather, get Marlon Brando back and let him come there. Let's talk about this, bro. Right, yeah, exactly. So, and that might be, and that's where it hurts. Summing up that we don't have a boxing commissioner or commission, because they might be able to say, look, we're shooting ourselves not in one foot but in both feet here, and so we can't walk because we're hurting ourselves so badly. We need to have a meeting of the minds and figure this out and make it work for boxing.
Go to the zone. You never come to me as a friend.
Make them
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. But that's what it is. That's what it comes down to. They have to see, and just like I have to see, that there are things that I may not like the way they work, but it doesn't mean that they can't be fixed. Maybe it doesn't work. Yeah, you shut up. Where's the mute button? But it's the idea of saying it has to be proven to them, just like it has to be proven to me. I didn't rise to the ranks of CEO just because I decided to call myself that. Actually, I did. Now, anyway, that's another story. But the idea being, if it's going to work, folks, and this is the thing that I'm looking at boxing and with me as well. Do you want a small percentage or a large percentage of not much, or a small percentage of a lot? What would you rather have? I think I'd rather have a small percentage of a lot than a large percent of nothing. And that's where I think boxing, they're not there yet. And I know that we've been doing this show, this is the 4th year, and in year 1, we posed the question, is boxing dying? Apparently it's not, because we're still talking about it. So that means something right there. But it could be so much more. And I think that's the essence of what we're talking about. Again, we normally do, as we start a show, we start talking about the fight that was the weekend before, the fight that's coming up the weekend of. What do we have to go on this week? There's really not where we say, this is something we really have to hang our hat on, and all the other stuff we're talking about, be damned, this is what we have to be concerned with. What's happening this weekend? What's happening this weekend? I mean, the fight fans have to watch.
Sorry, Frank. Leo Santa Cruz is fighting, and we've been talking about him for years.
Right.
So
but what I mean is, it's for us, yes, Leo Santa Cruz. But can you promote Leo Santa Cruz?
You can promote
not big picture, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Charles.
You can promote Keith Thurman.
And it has been being promoted. I have been seeing that one on TV, on Fox. They're doing it, but it's not like, man, are you kidding me? This is a card. Now, we're going to like it. We're going to love it. It should be a pretty darn good card. But it's not like people are going, geez, this is pay-per-view I got to pay for. So that's where we're at.
Well, real quick, Frank, that's too what we were saying is that's because Keith Thurman isn't a name that people know. A lot of people know. If you follow boxing, you're probably going to know it. But then people that know Keith Thurman or heard of him, know he's an ex-champion 2 times over, they go, I saw it when I posted my article yesterday. Oh, I'm not going to watch. It's garbage.
Or
Peripheral.
But you have to bring something in though that tags that makes it relevant, right? And the tag by that to say if Keith Thurman wins this fight, he has a great chance to fight Terrence Crawford. But a lot of people know more about Terrence Crawford than they do Keith Thurman. So you have to tag it. That makes it more interesting. Like, well, this guy, the last time he fought, he lost to Manny Pacquiao, right? He's used to be one time. You know, you got to build it up that way, but then you have to make it relevant to the point of Terrence Crawford. So now it's like this too. Then people go, well, okay, well, I don't know, but Terrence Crawford, okay, I'm gonna see what this guy's doing. So you got to tie it in. Doesn't make a lot of sense. It's not somebody you're gonna run up and just watch normally, but that's how it's done now. You got to tag it with other things that are more relevant. So you fight Terrence Crawford, which means it's going to get you the Errol Spence Jr., more, you know, all of that whole thing, and maybe perhaps one day an undisputed welterweight champion. But before you get going, it has to start somewhere, and this is how you start it. That's the part of it.
So in essence, what we're saying, there are 3 things we're looking at here. 1, we need people to get off the cable, cut the cord, get their fire sticks and get their free antennas and all that stuff. 2, we need Richard Schaefer to call Charles Farmer and get this stuff squared away. And 3, we need about 600 SEO interns to come in and work for the Ultimate Sports Network. If you're a quarter away from your degree or a semester or whatever it is, and you need a recommendation, come on work for the Ultimate Sports Network and get the word out for everything. Not only for us, but for boxing, for Max Boxing, for everybody. Because this is in essence where we're headed, that you have to get the word out in what are now conventional means, but were unconventional ways of doing things, because we're finding things in a different way. So, like you said, you tag a Keith Thurman fight with Terrence Crawford. Now, I don't know how in the world that used to make sense, but it makes perfectly good sense now. I don't know when you post a story and you say this has something to do with something it doesn't have anything to do with, but now it makes sense because that's it. That's where we have the Jake Pauls of the world just pop up from nowhere and go, huh, it's relevant now. Like it or not, that's what it is. So for those of you that are sitting on your lawn chair with your jarts that are pissed off about the world, get off your butt and understand the world's changing. And the world of boxing is changing as well. And we have to do a better job of promoting it as such. And they have to do a better job of putting fights on in a manner in which people want to find it. And this is why I believe this fight this weekend as a pay-per-view fight is insane. Because it's not going to, I don't think it's going to get carried by too many people or bought by too many people, because they don't, as Charles said, they don't have a reason to buy into it right now unless you promote it that way. This is a possible tune-up for Terrence Crawford. Maybe we get Errol Spence out of this. Maybe there's something to happen. Maybe some, I don't know. But we've got to figure out a better way of doing it. So time for us to grow up or grow down, I guess is maybe a better way of putting it. John, final thoughts?
This weekend, like boxing people like us, yeah, we're excited about it. But see, maybe they should think of doing like a mixture, like we were saying, where they know that we're going to be excited about it, but how do we get the other people interested? It's like hooking the Terrence Crawford possibility. Terrence, again, is very quiet. You know, he's suing Bob Arum and everything. We know that. Thurman is talking about fighting everybody. Hell, he even mentioned fighting Boots. So he eventually, but he wants a title shot first. So he did mention Terrence Crawford at one point. He did say something about fighting him. So he's trying his damnedest to promote it. And they've even made the little videos that are excellent, that are extremely good. So they're trying, but again, I think if you don't have that name that people know immediately, that's an instantaneous recognition, as they say, name recognition in politics, and you're only at like 12% or something, you're going to have a story along with the name to make it go up to maybe 30% or something like that. And I've never understood some of the hate for Keith. I mean, Keith, did the Manny Pacquiao thing, and he admitted later, look, I was just trying to promote the fight. Everyone who's ever met him or talked to him, he's a very smart guy. He's a nice guy. And people now they like despise him. I never got that, so that hurts him. And then, in a sense, Mario Barrios is about one of the nicest guys too. I mean, I spoke to him a few weeks ago at Virgil Hunter's gym. Just started talking to him. He talked to me like he's known me for 20 years. Said, "How you feeling? Good. What are you walking around at right now? About 160? Yeah, I'm 160. How are you feeling about fight? Feel great. You gonna be relentless? Yeah. Hey, he's susceptible to the body. You gonna throw that left hook to the gut?" And he just kind of grinned at me. So that's the kind of stuff you got to do. And I wish I had my camera. If I'd asked him, I'd have videotaped the whole thing because it was just fun. So I don't know. I think we've fallen into this little hole when it comes to advertising and everything, and we don't know really how to dig ourselves out of it. We know what we should do, but we're stuck, and people don't consider boxing important enough anymore to go the extra mile. But they were there that day filming the documentary on Mario Barrios, and they were really trying to get all these cool shots, and I was watching them. So some of the Premier Boxing Channel, some of their budget obviously is for boxing, and they do care. But they got to get the people to care, and that's the hard part. And I think you guys nailed it. They should have had a hook here, even if it would have hurt Mario Barrios' feelings. It said, "Look, Keith wins. Terrence Crawford has said he'll fight him next, and we'll have our showdown." But maybe Terrence wasn't on board for it, so they couldn't say that. So I don't know. But it seems to be always this thing. Back to what we said, Frank, that if you don't work cohesively, then you're all going in different ways, and then that ends up sinking the ship.
Yeah.
Not completely, because boxing will never die.
Will never die, but yeah, right. So, Charles, drive us home.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. So we've talked about a lot of extra things besides the actual box of boxing, but it's all for your entertainment and also for your information. So let's keep this real, as I like to do, or keep it 100. If you listen to everything that I ranted about and repeated again and again, and you follow that, I've just saved you thousands of dollars for 2022. You can't even say that about your own government. So with that being in mind, I might have an idea. So if we're talking here about what you should watch in boxing and some good things to follow up on, and that will pique your interest if you're a boxing fan, just pay attention a little bit. We might have something that you might be interested in, and you might find out to be a lot more truer than you may think compared to other options. We all have choices to do what we want to do. But then again, like I said, you do what I told you, you already saved thousands of dollars, so you can thank me later. I don't know, like I said, but like, subscribe, do whatever, and pay attention to what we have coming up. Thank y'all. Enjoy the weekend, and come back, please.
Very much. My name is Frank Gordon, and I have approved this message.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends. We like likes, right? We want likes.
Likes, subscribes, everything.
Yeah.
Clicks, the whole 9
Well,
yards.
you know what? We're going to have another show coming up where you can join us live.
Yeah, that's
Stay
good.
tuned for that. Stay tuned. You're going to be able to interact with us live very soon. And then you can like, subscribe, PayPal, whatever you want to do. Cash App, whatever. But
And
we guarantee you it's going to be worthwhile along with entertainment. If you think I'm crazy,
Always.
imagine what it's going to be like live.
I can guarantee you this from experience, from hundreds of people that have had this happen. There is almost no better feeling in the world than to look directly at me and telling me to shut up, because it happens a lot and people seem to enjoy doing that. So get on the screen and you can do it yourself.
I'm speechless, Frank, and that's a first.
Clutch the pearls.
There you go. Thank you, folks.